Take Control Books are media sponsors of MacVoices TV at Macworld 2010. See their selection of ebooks at takecontrolbooks.com. Good morning, Macworld 2010. Yeah. Thanks for joining the Mac Roundtable live on the main stage at Macworld 2010. We really appreciate it. We have quite an assortment of independent media content producers and some that are actually a little established as well. Because we have such an interesting large panel, let me just take a second and tell you what the Mac Roundtable is. We're a group of independent show producers who kind of get together about once every 2 weeks to talk about whatever it is we talk about. And you can find those conversations at MacRoundtable.com. That said, we each one of us have a show or shows we do, and so as folks get introduced here, I will ask them to introduce their shows to you as well, but to try to make it short because we obviously have a lot of people to get through. So with that, let's see, where do we go? My name's Chuck Joyner. I do a little something called MacVoices. That's why I'm wearing the shirt. You can find me at MacVoices.com, and I do some other things. You can find them linked off of that. Let's just make it orderly and start at this end. Don McAllister.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hi, Chuck. Hi, everybody. My name is Don McAllister. I'm the host-producer of ScreenCastsOnline, a weekly video podcast all about the Mac. So you can find me at ScreenCastsOnline.com.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Ken Ray.
Hi, I'm Ken Ray. I do a daily Mac newscast, or Apple-related newscast called macOS Can. It's anywhere from 7 to 25 minutes. Depends on how much news there is that day. Available online at macoscan.com. Victor?
Hi, I'm Victor Cajiao. Wow, speaking too loud. I do the Typical Mac User podcast at typicalmacuser.com. And if you like photography, typicalshutterbug.com is the second show.
John?
John F. Braun with Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab at macgeekgab.com.
Katie?
I'm Katie Floyd. I do the Mac Power Users podcast at macpowerusers.com.
And I'm Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com. And of course, I can't let Chuck have an orderly introduction here. I had a dream about this event. I dreamt that Chuck felt that it was really important that we have some opening music to the Mac Roundtable, and that he decided none other than Sigourney Weaver should sing the theme song to Juno. Chuck, why are you in my dreams?
I would say that you can only count yourself lucky, Allison.
And we're off the rails.
But, yeah.
All right, next up, Tim.
Tim?
Tim Verpoorten from the Mac ReviewCast at MacReviewCast.com.
David? Tim? Or Adam?
I'm up next. Adam Christianson from the MacCast at MacCast.com.
David?
Hi, everybody. I'm David Sparks from MacSparky.com, where I blog, and I'm also have the privilege of podcasting with Katie over there on Mac Power Users. And we're going to be back here also later today, Mac Power Users, at 2:45. Yeah.
And David?
I'm Dave Hamilton from the Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab podcast that I do with Mr. John F. Braun over there. We do once a week or so get together and answer your questions, solve your problems, share our tips, and just have a grand old time. So.
Okay, folks, that's all the time we have. It's been nice. This is just going to be an open discussion about some of the obvious topics, and the obvious big topic is Macworld 2010. Is it a success? Is it not? There was a lot of negative press going around, a lot of questionable press going around before we started. Dave, I want to ask you to jump in just for the heck of it. What do you think? Is this a success?
Oh, yeah. I mean, walking onto the show floor on Thursday morning, I could see that everything's been packed. Today will be interesting. Yesterday was packed as well. Today's a weekend day. It's the first time in a long time we've had a weekend day for Macworld Expo. But yeah, I think it's a success for what it was set up to be. But I think going forward, it needs to be bigger. And so I think the exhibitors that are here deserve a big round of applause for supporting this when everybody was being really questionable. And the ones that aren't here, we're not gonna shame them or anything. We're just gonna say, okay, the show happened. Enough people supported it to make it what it is. The attendees came out in droves, and you need to be here if you want this thing to continue on. And so I think it is a success, and I hope we see it happen again.
Victor, I've been telling anybody that would listen that I think if you weren't at Macworld 2010 exhibiting, you missed an opportunity. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. You missed an opportunity to connect or reconnect with old friends. You missed an opportunity to see some new products and to see some innovations that are coming out, even around the iPad, something that hasn't even been released to all of us. Manufacturers are stepping up, so I think it's yet another proof that when we get together, great things happen if we participate, and the vendors are doing their part, and we need to do our part too.
Don, you probably came the farthest of any of of this group, and certainly one of the farthest attendees for the show. Was it worth your time, money, and effort?
Oh, very much so, yeah. Because it's not just the show. It's not just the it's the whole experience really. It's not just the four walls. It's not just the sessions. I mean, I've yet still to go round the show floor and see a lot of the vendors because I've been working on the sessions, doing the conferences. The conference stream this year has been tremendous. So many different sessions on all sorts of different topics. It's there's a huge wealth of training available to people when they want to come to Macworld. So it's not just the show, it's everything else that surrounds the show as well. And it's well worth the effort and the expense to come out here. And I'd encourage anyone else who is passionate about the Mac and wants to see the Mac and Macworld itself go forward to support the show next year as well.
Don makes a great point. We all tend to come to the show floor, to events like this, look around and see the aisles full. We forget that over in the West Hall, there's been an amazing conference track all week. And David, you were one that taught part of that conference track.
Yeah, I was. I did my Mac at Work session and I did a numbers lab. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people there. We learned a great deal. I also had the privilege of attending some sessions, and I learned a lot about using my Mac. I had I think about 10 hours with Sal Segoyan on AppleScript, and now I am an official AppleScript geek. I'm having a great time.
That's good.
Long live Macworld.
Long live Macworld. Yeah. Yeah. The rallying cry for the next year. Katie, you're sitting here right in the middle, and I'm right behind you. So for what it's worth, where do you stand on things?
I love Macworld. Macworld is the one time a year that I get to hang out with some of my best friends. And there's the show, there's the conference, there's all the Oh, get off me. There are all the organized activities that go on with Macworld, but there's also a great afterlife, or after parties that you've got. Afterlife. Okay. Hopefully. There are lots of great parties. Dave and his crew do the excellent Cirque de Mac. I heard that Macworld Blast was absolutely smoking last night, and I know a lot of the vendors put on some activities that have been a lot of fun. And we as computer geeks have a tendency to stay behind our keyboards, and I chat and Skype and Twitter and blog and that kind of thing. And I think it's equally important that we come out and meet people who are really kind of geeky like us. And Macworld's a great place to do that.
Okay, I guess that was a good thing, Katie. I'm not sure. Another thing that happens at Macworld for a lot of us, not just the people that participate in this industry, but a lot of you too, you get to meet friends for the first time that you've made over the web, whether it's Skype or chat or whatever. I had that experience this week because I got to meet for the very first time in person Mr. Tim Verpoorten. Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like, Tim, you look so much different than the icon that's this big by this big. Tim, has it been a while since you've been to a Macworld?
2006 was the last one I was here.
Okay, so you're here. What do you think of not having maybe the perspective of year to year to year?
Pardon?
What do you think of this show not having had the perspective of the year to year to year thing that the regular attendees have?
Well, this was the first year we came up and that Apple wasn't here, and that obviously changed a little bit of the perspective of the show, but I think it gave a lot more highlight to these smaller companies and developers that you really want to see and learn more about. I know just talking to everyone yesterday on the floor, they were very happy with the turnout. The people who were selling items were selling more than what they had figured. I think that's going to run over to the people that were missing this year. I think you're going to see a lot of vendors planning on Macworld for next year. And that's the one thing that really stuck in my mind was just seeing all the people and seeing the sales, seeing the excitement about this. Definitely, that's what I'll take home besides the friends.
Great. Ken, as I recall, you said that your show, kind of the length of your show depends on how much news there is. How long have the shows been this week, and how long are they going to be next week?
The shows this week have been non-existent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sort of like what Katie was saying. The Podcast Expo or the Podcast and New Media Expo used to be camp for me. And then when they moved to Vegas, it got too big, and there were all these little camps, and everybody went away. So now Macworld's kind of like camp. So I came thinking I would, I'll interview this guy, and I'll talk to these people. And I talked to Victor. And I talked to Don, and, I've sort of been doing the whole reconnecting, doing what Katie said, not just living behind my computer. So shows next week will be longer because there's lots of news that I've missed.
Lots of news? Okay.
Thanks for shaming me, by the way.
No, I didn't.
Totally awesome.
I was trying to give you a plug, Ken, and it backfired. Sorry. Mr. Braun, I know you're just itching at the mic. You keep picking it up, so I want to get to you.
I was itching. Okay, a few things. So I saw plenty of new things. One, I got to give credit to the IDG folks because right on the Macworld website, there is a list. It's a little hard to find, but they sent it out beforehand to the press. There was a list of several new products, so it made it real easy because that's one thing that I do is come here, and the first question I ask a lot of the vendors, what's new? If there's nothing new, I won't walk away, but I really want to find the new stuff because that's, part of what Mac Observer does is to report the new stuff. Now, one thing here, I may get put on an Apple blacklist, but I don't care that Apple's not here, and I hardly ever go to them anyways because a lot of times when I did, if I went to their PR booth and asked a question, they were more than willing to take my questions, but they frequently didn't give me an answer that was useful. They'd say, go to the website or something, which is like, I could do that anyways. And even a lot of times when they had the new products, a lot of times the folks don't know a lot of the nuances because Apple is very tight-lipped about this. So I never really got a lot out of Apple being here. And I even heard on the way in on a shuttle, a radio commentator saying, oh, well, the reason that people go to Macworld is to see Steve Jobs in the keynote and see Apple. And I got to disagree with that. And also, I would gauge the success of the show as the number of times I wish I had a bulldozer to push all the people out of the way who were kind of, because I was moving to try to find new stuff, and there were too many. I don't know, too many. No, too many is good. So in my opinion, now Saturday this looks a little light here, but during the weekdays the traffic was very good. I went up. There's a place where you can go up and get a view of the whole show floor, and I took a few pictures of that. You can see on the site, and there's plenty of attendance. All the vendors said they got plenty of traffic. So shame on the ones who didn't show up. And well, no, I won't say shame, but I think they may rethink coming next year because I didn't have any vendors say there weren't enough people. There's plenty of traffic. So some of my initial thoughts.
Shame on the vendors, John. That means you're on 2 blacklists now.
No shame. We'll shame them for not coming next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, but everybody gets a pass this year.
That's good.
It's all good.
Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you the head of Apple marketing. Do you come back to Macworld Expo next year? And if you could be the guy running Macworld 2011, would you want Apple back?
So, do you bring Apple? Apple's not coming back. I think they made it very clear. I think they've moved on. They're going to announce things separately. I mean, from my perspective on that, just my comment was, yeah, it would have been really cool if there was that iPad and the display case. But to John's point, I mean, I would have gone to the Apple booth for about 2 minutes, looked at it, taken some pictures, sat there in awe, and then kind of moved on and got to what I really want to get to, which is the vendors and finding those little hidden gems on the show floor, because that's what my audience wants. They want me to come here and find the products that stand out. And so the vendors being here is really important. What I liked about this year is I told a couple of people, it feels a little bit like a reset. I talked to some people that went to the early Macworlds, and they were smaller, and they said it feels like we're kind of getting more back to that community. And what's great about the show this year is it really feels like something that can be really built upon and grow back up. And I think it rises back up as something different, but potentially a lot better for the community.
Okay. As much as it pains me to do this, I have to give Allison sort of the last word on this particular question. Allison, I got to tell you, I haven't had any dreams about you. I try not to think about you, actually. So.
I have no comment.
Okay.
No.
You have no comment. For the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Quick, get that on tape.
I was lying about that, of course. I find it intriguing that it's your attitude that really makes a difference here. As an attendee and as a developer, I walked by this one booth, This guy is sitting, not standing. He's got a big old booth, right? He's got a bunch of products out. He's sitting with his arms folded and this hideous scowl on his face. I mean, it was almost like he sprayed mace on me to keep me away from the booth, you know? Maybe Chuck told him about me, I don't know. But the guy was, I mean, he couldn't have repelled people from seeing his products better if he had really made an attempt. And then I went to, Tiny Town is this area over to our left where there's a little tiny tables. I mean, I think maybe we have to rename it Nano Town now. It's like, for the people who aren't here, how big's that table? Not 3 feet across. Yeah, it's a cocktail table with a square centerpiece that has, 4 things on the side, and on each, pie piece of the circle is a different vendor. And I'm talking to this guy from Global Delight. They make Camera Plus. His name's Guru. And he's sitting there. He is having the time of his life because he's between the Smule guys. And I swear, he said this. I'm sorry. He said, there's a lady on my other side who's doing something about condoms. And I'm getting a lot of traffic through here. So this is working great for me. He's in this little tiny booth. He is selling his little heart out. He's having a great time getting a lot of people looking at a product they never would have seen. And so I like spending a lot of time with the little guys because they're so enthusiastic. This big guy, he didn't care. So, and one more thing. Sorry, Chuck, I know you said to be brief, but it's not my nature. I saw a great tweet last night. It said, this has been a fantastic show, and I bet Apple feels silly for not being here. I thought that was a good closing tweet there.
Yeah. How about you all? How many people have had a great time here? And you think Macworld 2010 has been a success? Yeah, good. And Allison has one more thing. She thinks she's Steve Jobs.
I've got to call out Connor P. here because his mother said the greatest thing. She said, I walked into Macworld Expo and I felt like I was on another planet. And I said to her, that's how we feel all the time, and right now we're home.
Something Allison said I think is so true. And it fascinates me, the big deal that's been made about Apple not being here, because for as long as I can remember, Macworld has always been about the little booths on the outer reaches of the show floor. If you look back at the coverage of every other show, you're going to hear that, yes, Apple did this, Apple did that, but boy, the cool stuff I found was, in this dark corner of the show floor, and it's something I couldn't live without, or it's something I've been looking for forever. So it's just a non-starter for the big companies not to be here. I think the opportunities are here for anyone that wants to come that has a cool product. Okay, guys, since we do have limited time, the other obvious thing is, what are you going to take home from Macworld 2010 this year in the way of hardware, software, service? What can't you live without that you saw or that you just really, really want? This time I'll start down. Or no, I started with Dave. I'll start with Don this time. And
okay, well, I'm a bit disadvantaged because, as I say, I only sort of spent literally 10 minutes running around the floor when it opened, so I've not really seen all the products. But I've seen the list of, the best of show stuff. But I like to go and see it myself and make my own opinion on that. What I will say, though, is it's my first year as a proper speaker, member of the faculty, so I actually got a swag bag. So I'm going to go home with my swag bag, and that's payment enough for coming here. That's brilliant.
So Don's taking home a lot of stuff.
I'm taking home a lot of stuff, so yeah, I suppose I really need to see what it is actually in there first before I go away and possibly buy the same thing that I've already been given in my swag bag, so I'll have to check that out.
Okay. Ken?
The Mikey.
Ooh, the Mikey.
But the new one, Blue? Not the one that's out yet. It's coming out by the end of spring. It's by Blue, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like $80 or $100, I think, and it just sounds like, because I've got I can't remember if it was Griffin or who made it, but I've got one for a microphone that plugs into my 3rd generation iPod, or I guess the iPod Video, whatever that was. Not the classic, not that far. I've been doing what little recording I have done this week, all of it on my iPhone, and I'm amazed how good the microphone actually sounds on it. Now, it doesn't sound as good as the one that I normally use at home, but they're promising that just having the iPhone and this mic that they're going to have will apparently be the best thing ever. I'll sound like Robert Goulet, or somebody that you like to hear.
I hope in his prime.
So that's what I'm most not Robert Goulet today. That's what I'm most looking forward to seeing. Unfortunately, all they had was like they had the casing for it. They didn't, so I want to see that when it comes out. So in the meantime, I'll hold on to my $80 and wait.
Great. Victor, we'll just go down the line with this one.
Okay. Saw lots of really nice stuff. I guess because of my renewed passion with photography, I guess if I have to pick one, the iFi, the new 8 gig Pro X2. I've been looking forever for them to come out with a raw version of this card, and it just fits every one of my needs. It gives me 802.11n, so that's fast. It gives me the ability to buffer how much information goes down. Nice product, and I'll be able to use that as soon as I can get my hands on one, buy one. I can't wait to take pictures with it. The iFi is a small SD card that has a built-in chipset that lets you, through Wi-Fi, transmit your photos directly from your camera into your Mac. And that can be video. They're now using a Class 6 card, so it can take the video stream, it pushes it right down into your Mac. They also have integrated services like mapping and direct to Picasa, direct to Flickr. I love mine that I have now, but RAW has been the one thing that haven't done. So now they're doing it. Thanks, Allison, for that.
John?
Okay, agreed. Glad I thought I had a couple in my head because I was going to mention the iFi as well. They're right over there. Go visit them afterwards. It's a great little card. I have an early one, and hi guys. But the other thing that I saw that I really liked is something called CarMD. You should visit them if you're a gadget freak or you just wonder what the check engine light on your car means. And I've checked and it's still there. But what they will do, it's a device that hooks up, and there is a standard in 96 cars and beyond. Now, I have a 94 car, so there's a 50-50 chance it may work. But 96 cars and beyond have a standard for retrieving diagnostic information from the car, and this device is a hardware device that you hook up. It'll pull the data out. It'll display diagnostic code, but then if it detects something that's wrong, you then hook it up to your Mac. Now Mac, it was PC, now it's PC and Mac. And it will pull the data out and tell you in plain English what is wrong with your vehicle. It'll tell you where you can go to get it repaired and a whole bunch of other things. So, especially with an aging vehicle, I want to get all the facts and know what's going on. So, but it can, help you with repair bills, make sure the dealers aren't, fooling you when they tell you what's wrong or making you pay for repairs that you don't need. So I think it's a really neat device, so check them out.
Katie?
Not a product I'm going to be able to take home today, but one that I'm very excited about is some of the work that the Omni Group is doing. They are productivity gurus over there between OmniGraphal and Omni Outliner and all of their tools, and they have announced before the show that they are bringing all of their apps over to the iPad. And I know there's going to be an extended iPad discussion later today, but I'm very interested to see how those apps port over to the iPad, because I really want to be able to do some work from my iPad. I want it to be more than just a toy, and the Omni Group is all about getting stuff done and getting work done, and to be able to touch and feel and move on the screen, all of those elements, whether it's graphic elements or whether it's moving around pieces of an outline, that's really going to impact my workflow in a very cool way.
I'm going to take advantage of host and get in the middle here since I got to get in somewhere.
You're always stopping me.
Yeah, I know. That's why I did it. There's a product that I find strangely compelling. In fact, it's right over there. It's from Buffalo. It's called the Dually. It's a combination hard drive and iPhone dock. It's nothing new. It's just so well implemented. It will take cables off my desk. It's a small dock that comes with a 500 gig hard drive, 3 USB connections, I believe, so that you can...
FireWire 800.
FireWire 800? Yeah. Okay, FireWire 800 too. Allison memorizes the technical specs on everything. But it will allow me to grab my iPhone fully charged out of the dock and a hard drive off my desk at the office and take it with me. So again, it's nothing new. It's just really, really a nice implementation. I've seen a lot of docks. I found none of them compelling. That, if I don't take it home, I will be ordering one. Allison?
Yeah, I actually had the Dually on my list too. That looked pretty cool. So I'm actually excited about something I already owned that they're still selling here. But if you've got an iPhone here, it's constantly searching for a Wi-Fi signal and a 3G signal. So by about 10 minutes after you get up in the morning, your battery's dead. But there's a thing called the FastMac IV, and it's one of these battery pack charger sort of things. The FastMac IV is 3,100 milliamp hours, I think, will actually charge your cell phone, your iPhone, from dead twice. So you can go, till noon almost with the service here. So, but anyway, it not only charges your iPhone, it charges through the dock connector, so you can charge your iPhone and the Fast Mac at the same time. It's got a USB port on the bottom, so it can actually you can charge like your BlackBerry if you have to carry two devices, other things that you want to charge. It's got a phenomenally bright light on it on the back of it. And the thing I really like about this device is I was walking in Hawaii, and I'm a little bit clumsy. Some people might have heard that. And I tripped on lava, and I landed on my iPhone on my hand. Well, I also landed on my knees. Both knees ripped to shreds. I mean, blood dripping down my knees. My iPhone is fine. My Fast Mac IV is fine. Now, my husband Steve says he wants to get 2 more to tape to my knees when I walk, but it's not the recommended usage of this device. But I mean, that tells you how sturdy this thing is. I got it at the show last year. They're still selling these. They're amazing. But their newer model is the Fast Mac IV Plus, I think it's called, and it's only 1,400 milliamp hours, so you kind of get maybe like one charge out of your iPhone. But it has a bunch of other things in it. It's got, instead of just a static light, it's got a synchronous light for video, and it'll also act as a flash for your iPhone. It's a lot thinner, and so it's a little more pocketable. The thing, people on audio can't see this, but it's more than double the thickness of my iPhone. This other one's a lot thinner, but it also comes with a built-in application that allows you to remote control your TV and DVD player and that sort of thing. And it's amazing. It's got a whole database in there. You just find your device, you click it. You can actually rearrange the icons on screen. So imagine like the way you change your icons on your iPhone. You can do that where like you don't want the play button on the right for some reason, you're dyslexic and you want it on the other side. You can just move it over there. It's a really interesting little application set. I don't think you can fall on lava with it because it fits a lot more flush. But for the non-spazzes in the group, that might be a good thing.
Steve, you want her to tape a couple to her knees? I got an idea for any leftover tape. Tim?
Chuck!
Well, there's no lava where I live, so I'm safe with this. One thing that caught my eye, though, is the whole movement here to paperless. I know that Katie and David did a really good segment on Mac Power Users on paperless, and we're seeing more with the Neat system coming out with some new software and hardware, and then also Fujitsu this year caught my eye with their new 1300. It's reasonable, portable, reasonably priced, portable. It can scan several types and sizes of documents at once, can scan them fast. And what's really nice is they're taking their software up a level. They're also integrating with third-party software like Evernote and Paperless and some of these others where you can take the PDF, take them, OCR them, and put them into, categorize them and put them away as you need it. I know paperless is something that's not going away, and it's something that's going to be more and more important, I think, to all of us. One more thing that this S13 does is the highlight scan. So if you've got phone bills or whatever, you can take and highlight the account number on the phone bill, run it through, and the highlighted number becomes searchable, highlighted with any kind of pen at all. So these are some of the new things that are coming out for paperless, and I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Now it's getting interesting because there have been a lot of products picked, guys.
Yeah, we're running out of stuff. I'm gonna pick another one from Fast Mac because it was one of the first things. They're right inside the door. So my plan was to kind of come in, go right, and then work my way back and forth across the show floor. And the very first thing that I saw was something I had heard about. It's called the U-socket. And it's a replacement for your AC wall sockets, where you plug in your vacuum cleaner and your appliances and things like that. But what it adds is 2 USB ports built right into the socket, one on either side. So I want to get these things all over my house because we have so many devices these days that use USB as the charging mechanism. To be able to just walk up and plug your device right into the wall, it just one of those ideas that said, why hasn't this happened before? I think they're just finishing up their UL approval, so I'm not sure exactly the launch date, but soon. They're taking pre-orders, I think, and it's $20. And they said, as far as how, get an electrician if you're not comfortable, but if you're comfortable replacing, a light socket in your house or a switch, it's just that simple. There's no additional wiring or stuff required. So really neat, just kind of interesting product that I think serves a really useful purpose.
David and Dave, we may be down to iPhone cases.
Yeah, the iPhone cases are awesome here. No, I really like the MacSpeech Scribe product. They've got a new product out where you can record audio on your phone or any device and just plug it into your MacSpeech and it transcribes for you. So if you don't want to do transcription at your computer, now you can do it off a recording. I thought that was pretty neat.
Dave?
Yes, so have you seen the iPhone cases that are? No. Look, there's 230 vendors here. There's plenty of products to talk about. I'll fill up the rest of the time talking about all of them, Chuck.
Thank you, Dave.
Over in Shantytown, iPhone world over here, I shouldn't point because then everybody's head turns. I learned that the other day. So, Byte Squared has their Office 2 or Office Squared product, which allows you to view, edit, and create Word and Excel documents on your iPhone, which is cool. There's other vendors doing this, but they're sort of all in one, and it lets you copy, a table from an Excel spreadsheet over to a doc, Word doc. You can read files from your iDisk. You can read and write files directly to the unit with a WebDAV server, so it'll just appear in your Finder. You can also read and write to Google Docs, and Dropbox integration is coming. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it seems like they're constantly furthering this thing along. It just came out, and yeah, they the iPad seems like a logical place for them to go. So that's my thing. Of course, it wouldn't be Macworld Expo if I didn't say go buy BusyCal because it's the best calendar that you can get on the Mac right now.
Yeah.
So go do that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. That it's important to know, for those of you that have been in the market. Anybody remember, and I'm not talking about what exists as this product now, but what used to be good and called Now Up to Date and Contact? Anybody remember that? Okay, so Dave Riggle, who makes BusyCal, wrote the original Now Up to Date and Contact, and it manages to-dos the right way. You can sync among your local network, so you can have true multi-user calendars. You can sync with Google Calendar. It syncs with your sync services on your Mac. So if you've got a MobileMe account to sync to your iPhone, it just happens over the air and it just works. So just go get that. It's easy. It's $50. You don't even have to think about it, and then you can use a real calendar, and you can forget about iCal forever because it sucks. But I don't really have too many strong opinions about this stuff.
I was going to say, tell us how you really feel, Dave. That's. Dave brings up an interesting point, and it's probably an occupational hazard for us up here, probably for you all. You come to Macworld thinking, I want to see what's new. And don't overlook what isn't new. If you have a product, stop by the booth and talk to them. I bet you $100 that you're not getting the full utility out of the programs you have, that they can help you get more, they can give you a little quick training or a little demo. Sometimes you learn just things through the demo that you didn't know. But also use it as an opportunity to discover products you don't have now, even though they may not be showing something that's, oh my God, the latest and greatest. So it's just, there's so many opportunities here for learning and information. How about you? I want to throw out and get a couple questions from the audience. First hand there. Hang on, sir.
There's Phil Donahue music we were going to have queued up for you there, Chuck.
First thing, I want to thank you, all the panelists. But I agree with most of you said, okay? But this, if I reach the question, I don't wish you hate me, okay? Okay. But I think it's a very hard fact, okay? Macworld without Apple is weird, okay? For me, last year I come here, I'm myself is a Mac fan, okay? Last year I come here, there's two hosts, like only one executive host. This is a fact. And everybody know Apple, whatever their position is, somebody calls, they are saying, I agree with that, but Apple is a leader. Innovation. The people, lot of vendors just follow. So this is a piece of a very important puzzle before the leadership and somebody following that. There's something, I'm not saying something, they are missing something. I think this is a fact. I really like the panelists to address that with a very honest, frank way.
Okay, guys. Ken's, I saw Ken's hand first. Okay,
my only
John.
response is that there's an Apple store right down the street. If you want to see what Apple has, you go there. And I think they've indicated that's their strategy. They don't feel necessary to be here because they're there.
And I would throw in one thing to that. You buy a limited number of Apple products per year, per cycle, whatever. Okay, you unless you're buying for a business, but you're buying all this stuff all the time. So there's a lot more information, I think, to gather. how many MacBooks can you buy? How many models are there to choose from? But there's a lot of other stuff to choose from. Katie.
You know, that's really the first comment I've heard from someone at Macworld, and I don't know how many Macworlds you've attended, who have really missed Apple. I, for one, couldn't care less. I mean, sure, it's cool to go see the iPhone in the glass case, but I can do that anywhere. I can do that at the Apple Store, and quite frankly, I can get a heck of a lot more information from their website than I can get from their people on the booth. Everyone I hear who is screaming, Apple is not here, Macworld is going to die, is not here and has never been here. They don't get it. Yeah, well, Allison says it's like the people who want Flash on the iPhone. I don't know about that.
Whole different thing.
But Macworld is much bigger than Apple, and I tell you, I haven't missed a thing this year. I've had just as good, if not a better time this year than I have in previous years when Apple has been here. And I think a lot of the naysayers and a lot of the pundits that you're seeing, it's very easy to do that from afar. And I understand that if you don't come to Macworld, the perception is that Macworld is this keynote that Steve Jobs does. But I really haven't heard anybody who's been here say that.
Allison?
So one of the things I was thinking about was, I really like that it's all in one hall this time. I'm the kind of person that always figures, man, I bet something better's going on in the other hall. So I always felt like, oh, I'm in the North Hall. Shoot, I ought to be in the South Hall. Oh, man, no, I'm in the South Hall. This sucks. I want to go to the North Hall. So I'd go back and forth, and I'd stress about what I was missing, and I needed to go over there. I like it being all in one hall because Apple isn't taking up 2/3 of the front. And, once Adobe left, who cares? So that gave us a lot more room to actually fit into one hall, and I think that worked really well. I mean, I'd like to be the only one going up and down, so I didn't need to use the bulldozer that John was going to use to get in and out. But other than that, if all you guys weren't here, it'd be great. I'd have all the booth to myself.
Ken?
Where's the gentleman who?
He's over here.
I'm with you. I'm sorry.
Really?
I think this is I think this community is fantastic. I think everything that's happening here this week has been wonderful. I think it's great to see everybody turn out without Apple here, who didn't turn out as MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC. Local affiliates are here. There are a lot of people who got to hang around the edges. Tiny town, like everybody talks about, they benefited from 20 feet from Apple. And now we are down the street from Apple. I mean, it's a great time. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I hope it continues, but we might be kidding ourselves a tiny bit if we say that we're not missing something because Apple isn't here. Is the show doomed? Not necessarily. I don't think so. There are a lot of people here who are having a great time. I talked to 2 vendors just before I came over here who have had a fantastic show. And one of them, I didn't ask the other one, but one of them is planning to be back next year. So, no, it doesn't mean the show is gone, but I don't think we're being 100% honest if we say, well, who needed Apple? I mean, it changed the dynamic, and there's a great chance for the show to grow into something completely different. I think it's already started to do that this year, but, I mean, it's different. So I'm with you.
No, you make a good point that not having Apple here at the show floor, we don't have the magnetism, right? That there's not that gravity that they bring to this, but they haven't stopped innovating, right? I mean, Apple's still leading the charge of this industry. They're still defining where it's going, and just because they're not here doesn't mean that they're doing more of that now than ever. And so are all these companies around here, right? I mean, there's all this stuff going on. So not having them and that as that epicenter of Macworld Expo, you're right. It doesn't bring the same attention to it, but I don't think the industry, I don't think it affects the innovation. I don't know.
Victor?
Just quickly, I think Apple innovates. Apple is a leader, but I think that we have the most devoted fans and supporters of Apple right here. I've only been around this place for 3 years. If I was one of those that had been for 20 years and that company decides to say, well, you know what, you want to play with us, come visit our store, I don't feel good about that, and I'm new to this whole thing. They have an opportunity to reach back to us through Twitter, through other avenues, to give back to their community with just more than product, but with, soul. I think they're missing that opportunity, and last year's departure of this show, to me, was a great indicator of where exactly they stand when it comes to their biggest fans.
Don?
Yeah, I see the two sides, but I must admit the only time it really hit me was after the journey over from the UK. I mean, it was a 20-hour journey, and I got onto the bus and I sat down and I thought, oh, there's no keynote to look forward to this year. And I sort of went, But then, I got over it. And, the show has been the same as last year. I mean, last year I never went to the Apple booth. I watched one of the presentations that they did. I never spoke to a single Apple person because there was no real need for me. But I fully understand that it hasn't attracted, the big networks in to cover the show. But do we really need that? It's not really that necessary. And they did launch the iPad within the space of Macworld. And also on the Tuesday, they launched Aperture 3, and there was a lot of buzz going around. Oh, great, they've launched a new version of Aperture 3. So, all that buzz was still here. It's just that we didn't get to see the keynote. But, we'll get by. It's not a big deal.
Adam?
I just wanted to comment. I mean, absolutely, it's going to be a completely different show, and I think it already is. It's showing. But there's some very big positives to that, too, in terms of, IDG did a lot of work to bring on some pretty influential and big name people that aren't Steve Jobs and aren't Apple. So I had the opportunity to go up and, shake LeVar Burton's hand after he came up and talked. And I don't remember that happening before at Macworld. Or Adam Savage was there at Leo's talk, and I know a lot of people got pictures with him. It's been really amazing to see some different kinds of people in the tech community. I know a lot of people really enjoyed seeing Kevin Smith, which is a whole different flavor. So we're seeing a very different Macworld, but in a lot of ways, a lot of it's very positive.
Agreed. Allison?
Okay, because of what Victor said, I changed my mind. I really do wish Apple were here because I upgraded my Aperture library to Aperture 3, and now everything's broken, and I would love to be talking to them right now.
I look at this, and let me ask you, how many people here have an iPhone? Okay, 3 years ago, give or take, you didn't have an iPhone. Okay, you have evolved because we had a cool new product. Macworld is in an evolutionary state. It is evolving into something new. It's never been officially said, but there are a lot of things that IDG and Paul Kent and his team can do now that they couldn't do before with an Apple presence. They're working on it. They want to hear from you. Paul did a great town hall last year. They implemented a lot of the suggestions. First of all, I want to call for a round of applause for Paul and his team for this year's show. Okay. And the second thing is, if you have ideas about what you'd like to see, send them to Paul or send them to me. I'll get them to Paul to make sure that they are seen. He can't do everything, folks, but they want to make this show a success. It only makes sense for that. And if, to get you back, what will bring you back next year? What will cause you to go to a vendor and say, hey, I really miss seeing you on the show floor. I hope you're there next year because I will be there. That's really, really important. Hand, yes, ma'am. I can't go over there, it'll scream at me.
I understand. I'd like to give you guys some feedback. Two things. One suggestion for improvement is when you give product names, because some of the vendors are unfamiliar to us, say it twice and enunciate clearly. Might just go for that. And the other thing is the Mac Roundtable podcast. Do more of them. You're wonderful. It's really cool because I listen to a number of you individually. And I also listen to the roundtable things, but it brings in more, just the different perspective and the interaction. And I'd like to suggest, guys, if you're not listening to these guys, listen to them. They're really good. There's some really good stuff that goes down. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
And
but Linda, do you realize that you just asked Allison to say more? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think next year's show will be an iPad show? I mean, as far as the vendors and things go? Big emphasis on that?
Definitely. I mean, how could it not be, right? I mean, we're going to have this. I don't think all the Mac vendors will leave, but certainly there'll be a new influx of all these apps and accessories and all that stuff. So, Macworld tracks the industry, right? When iPhone or even iPod cases were all the rage, and that's where all the VC dollars were going and all the investment was going. We saw a lot of that here. But, and I think the iPad, iPhone apps, right? There's a ton of investment going into that. We've got almost 100 iPhone apps being shown over here. So will we see that with the iPad? I think so. I think there's a lot of people that are going to bet on that. So, yeah, I think so.
David?
One way to get an idea of that is an hour after the keynote with the iPad, I got my first press release with the iPad case from a third-party vendor. Yeah, within an hour. And they had photoshopped it in. It was really cute. So I expect to see a lot of that next year.
Okay, the one guy that's being very quiet up here, and he's not shy. Tim, iPad world next year, is it just going to be a component, or is it going to be a dominant component?
No, it'll probably be very dominant. I'm so positive about an iPad right now. I can just see it fit into my family's life on a day-to-day basis. Just to be a natural around through the home, take it down the road with you if you're heading down the road with the family. Just use it casually in the kitchen, living room for keeping in touch. I just can't see this thing not being a huge, huge success. Doesn't matter whether you want to go with the $499 model or the $700, $899 model. There's one for you, and it's only going to get better and better. And the apps on there, well, just take a look at the great the iPod and iPhone apps we've got now. They're going to be on the iPad too. So yeah, I'm very positive.
Great. Allison?
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying, Chuck, about how this has been an evolutionary show, and I would expect to see evolution with the newer products that Apple does. I know Dave kidded around about all the iPhone cases, but I actually believe there's fewer this year, because last year I was so mad at myself. What I wanted to do was take a picture of every iPhone case shop and then make a big collage out of it, because it was so comical how many there were. And I think that's actually who's not here, because there's only like 15 or 20 of them, and there were hundreds last time. But I think that what we'll see is that growth come back with the iPad cases next year. That's what we can really have to look forward to. I was actually hoping to find one this year.
Yeah, they're right. They are.
Yeah, I saw one. Yeah, I saw the Photoshopped one you were talking about. That was kind of cute. They printed it like on inkjet paper and cut it out and put it on there. It was pretty funny.
I want to go back just for a second to the product picks, because there's a point I wanted to make, and then I got so involved in listening I forgot. And that is, think back to everything that this group picked. Probably half of it doesn't apply to you, and half of it may absolutely apply to you. That's what this show is about, is finding the products that exactly apply to you. And that's what's cool about maybe not having Apple here, is there's a lot more opportunity to look at all those products. So I think there's some actual upsides to Apple not being here. Yes, Apple not being here. Put the mic closer. Okay. It just sounds like I'm booming to myself. Okay, yes ma'am.
I actually don't have a question. Is that okay? Is this good? Hi. Most of you already know me. I'm Geeta. I work with the Agile Web Solutions team on 1Password. And all I wanted to say was, as an exhibitor, thank you. As an exhibitor who had a booth last year and chose not to have one this year, after what you have said, I feel the need to apologize to you. But to be honest, I have no regrets. And I don't think that any of us on the team who came this year have. Because for the simple reason that last year, we were shackled to a booth, and what I got out of it was a hoarse voice and really not a lot of personal connections. This year, I've been a walking advertisement. I have been able to meet and connect with, on a personal level, many, many 1Password users. And I've actually met and spoken to a lot more of you this year than I ever could last year. So that's a slightly different perspective, I hope. And I don't know if we plan to have a booth next year, but this year has been a fantastic experience as a last year's exhibitor. Thank you.
I actually have a response to that, Geeta. And I totally get that. My fear is, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but my gut says that at this level, the conference isn't sustainable for IDG, right? I mean, if they're going to put this on, they need to make money. No, and that's fine. And whether they succeed or fail, that's their thing. It doesn't matter. However, in order for you to be here and meet all these people, the show had to happen, right? So by making the choice to do that again, the risk is if too many people make that choice, the show won't happen, and we don't have this semblance of all these people for you to meet. So that, you got to make your own business decisions. IDG will make their own, but we all sort of need to be aware of, okay, how close to that tipping point are we to where we just don't have the gravity and we don't have the mass to make this thing happen. And I don't think this level is sustainable. I think we have to have another 50, maybe 100 exhibitors. So that's my perspective. So there you go.
John?
Okay, I'll say one thing. Thank you for the comment, and I will apologize for the statement I made earlier. I know it's very difficult for small vendors to justify the cost of coming to this show versus actually working on coming out with products and continuing to improve them. So I'm going to take back what I said for the smaller companies because your product is great, and a lot of the other smaller folks who did make an effort to have a presence here. So I'll take it back.
But you know what? This is an interesting discussion because it points out just how complex. See, that's why I don't talk too loud. It points out how complex the question is, how complex the ecosystem is. So, again, I think encourage everyone to come, encourage them to participate in some way. The only answer to yours is bring a few more people so you can circulate around a little bit and they can hang out in the booth. It is difficult, I know, because it's an expensive proposition and there are different qualities and levels of interactions. Guys, we probably have time for one more question. Anyone? Yes, ma'am, right? Come on, sure, come on over. You don't have a question, but a comment. With this group, that's as good as a question.
This is my first year at Macworld, and so I never experienced it with Apple. But as a power user and someone who creates content, I feel that Macworld is way more important to meet people and meet you guys that are an inspiration for people just getting into creating content and creating things. And the vendors are icing on the cake, pretty much. But I came to meet people and have a good time, not to buy a new product. And I bought a few products, but so I don't think Apple needs to be here because that's not what it's about. Oh, and thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, one last show of hands. How many people care that Apple isn't here? That was a stupid statement. How many people really are disappointed Apple isn't here and want to see them back to make it a good show? Okay, how many don't care and will come back next year without Apple? There you go. That's what we want to see. Yes, and I'm biased. I just left my own thing in. Guys, I think we're just about out of time. So we got 12 minutes to say goodbye. I was getting 5. Okay, yes, sir.
Hi, Paul Shadwell from the IMP podcast. I've come all the way from Switzerland, and this is my first year here, and I've had a great time meeting you guys. Had a lot of fun. So, I have one question for the panel. Do you like chocolate?
Chocolate?
Don't eat it! He's poisoning the whole group. Hey, real Swiss chocolate.
Thank you, Paul. Oh my! Whoa! Thank you. Hey, Paul. I live near Hershey. Is this as good? Oh, they want to know what your podcast is. Promote it, please.
Well, I'm a professional guest on the IMP, and I've also appeared on VexTech and a couple of others as well.
So that's the International Mac Podcast. The URL is?
I am podcast.tv. Thank you.
He's a professional guest, but he doesn't know where. Okay, I'm being given the sign that I got one more question. So, gentleman back here, if you'll meet me over here.
Does he have chocolate?
Does he have chocolate?
Verizon on iPhone. Verizon on iPhone.
Verizon on iPhone. Ooh, there's a question for you. Katie, you have the mic in hand.
I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I certainly think competition is good. I would like to see Verizon have the iPhone. And as someone who has given AT&T a lot of grief, and as someone who cannot make a phone call in my house, I think that despite all of this that we're saying, if Verizon had had the iPhone initially, they would be having a lot of the problems that AT&T is having now. So I mean, yes, we want it to be better. Yes, it needs to be better. And I think that it will be. I think the message has been sent, but of course, building towers and rolling out things like that takes time. But I would like to see the iPhone on every carrier. Certainly Verizon, I'd like to see it on Sprint. I'd like to see it on T-Mobile. I think that's the way that the future is going. I recently saw an article that said that iPhone data users use 5 times the data of even a BlackBerry user. So I think it's just a monumental, overwhelming shift in the way that people are using their phones. And although perhaps AT&T has had more trouble than they would have expected handling it, I think anybody would have had some of these growing pains too. But I'd like to see it everywhere.
Adam?
Yeah, to Katie's point, I think Katie has the exact thing. I don't think this is an AT&T problem. I think this is an overall cell network problem as devices have come on board that are taking more and more advantage of data. My own story, I mean, here this week, AT&T has been non-existent. Last night I had to borrow Victor's, I had to borrow someone's Victor's MiFi, and make my phone call home on Skype on my iPhone because I literally couldn't get a signal. Now but what I want to point out is, for me, that's a huge exception, and I've talked about this on my show. I have never had a problem with AT&T. I live in San Diego, it's a big market. I go up to LA, it's a big market. I have never had an issue. I don't get drop calls. The exception here is there's a bazillion iPhones, and in a small concentrated area. There's only so many cell towers, there's only so much AT&T can do. And the other thing is that at the iPad announcement, Apple said, we believe in AT&T, we believe in their network, we believe in what they're doing. They're in a better position than any of us to understand and know what's going on behind the scenes at AT&T. So I think there is a commitment to bring up the network. I think AT&T is working very hard, and to Katie's point, I don't think that Verizon would have done it any better. I think they'd be in the exact same situation, scrambling, because I think they had no way to predict, they had no models to know that it was going to go up that high, that fast.
Anyone else Verizon on iPhone?
I want it.
John?
My experience is that I think CDMA is just the better technology based on the feedback I've gotten from people in my experience. I still have a Crazer phone. I'm hoping. But on the other hand, I understand CDMA is going to be going away. The only problem is that when I travel internationally, when I do, CDMA is non-existent. I have to get a GSM phone. So,
John, you do the Mac Geek podcast. Could you translate those acronyms for us and tell us what you mean by that? In other words, which services you're referring to?
Okay, so CDMA is the protocol that is used by most of the Verizon phones, and it's just a different way of the phone talking to the network than GSM, which is what AT&T, and it's actually a more global thing. My global friends know that. I think the good thing about CDMA is, again, on my experience, it just is more reliable and I think more robust. The downside is that it's proprietary pretty much to the US and a few islands. So, and I think it's going to go away in something else will replace it. Maybe that will be better. So that's just my personal, somewhat, subjective and perhaps uninformed opinion.
Sometimes we have to bring John back to the level of the rest of us. Don?
Yeah, just one thing to do with carriers. I mean, in the UK, I think we've got 3 or 4 different carriers now with the iPhone. And is it 4? Yeah. And it's not really because of performance. They're all pretty much as bad as each other, but it really just gives the opportunity for people on different networks to actually buy into the iPhone. And I think that's really going to be the big thing over here. When it does start to go to multiple carriers, it will just give more people more opportunity to actually buy into the iPhone. So, in the UK, that seems to be working really well. We can get the iPhone in most stores now, whichever network it is.
Great. Folks, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming. Don McAllister, Ken Ray, Victor Cajiao, John Braun, Katie Floyd, Allison Sheridan, Tim Verpoorten, Adam Christianson, David Sparks, and David Hamilton. We're the Mac Roundtable. I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks so much. Let's have a big round of applause for Macworld 2010. We'll see you back here in 2011, right here. We'll save your seat. Thank you. Take Control Books are media sponsors of MacVoices TV at Macworld 2010. See their selection of ebooks at takecontrolbooks.com. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.